However,
Yes.
here's our transition. It isn't the most self-indulgent thing we watched this week.
No, it isn't. Yeah, we watched. Uh, this was my idea to watch Waterworld. Wait. So this movie is notorious
Yes,
for infamous for being.
which is bigger than famous.
Yeah. Yes. To quote the Three Amigos. Um, yeah. It's infamous because at the time it was released, it was the most expensive movie ever made, with a reported budget of $175 million in 1995.
Yeah.
Um,
Which, you know
yeah.
what? Let's go ahead and keep talking. I'm going to pull up a inflation calculator.
All right. Yeah. So it's and I remember seeing the trailers for this movie and thinking it kind of looked odd. With to my 9-10 year old brain. Um, and so the probably the reasons for that is because it was shot pretty much entirely on water, which if you know anything about movies shot in water, that's very hard to do.
Like Jaws.
Jaws, yeah, Titanic, The Abyss, and and on top of that, they filmed it in Hawaii, or one of the islands of Hawaii, and the locals decided to price gouge the film production. Overcharging for everything, and I don't know if they got taxed or not. I think they probably got taxed quite a bit.
I wonder if that Simpsons episode where they had the making of the failed Radioactive Man movie was at all inspired by this, because while they both came out in '95, this movie was in the trades for how unsuccessful, like how much chaos was happening behind the scenes for some time before that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. And the other aspect of it too is I don't know if this was true or not, but the director on the movie, Kevin Reynolds, who's also he also directed the Robin Hood movie with Kevin Costner. Um,
Oof.
yeah, apparently they were friends at the time, but after this movie, they weren't. And supposedly Kevin Reynolds actually quit just before production was done, and so Costner had to step in and direct for the last few weeks of the shoot.
Oof.
Yeah, but
Oh, incidentally, that 175 million would be roughly 360 million today.
okay, so a typical Disney movie then.
a Captain America 4 after the third round of reshoots. Yes.
Yeah. Indiana Jones and the Dial of
Yeah.
Destiny. Yeah.
It is kind of interesting how the amount of money a movie gets put into it before it becomes a bloated mess seems to be pretty consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, and this movie is definitely a bloated mess.
Yeah. So Daniel, you said something very insightful as we were watching it, and
Yeah.
that was that you felt like there was like two movies going on here. Like I couldn't decide on a tone.
Yeah, it was like at points it felt like a serious dystopian, like melodrama, and how all the harsh reality of living in a world that's entirely covered by water. And then there were other moments where it felt like a fun action adventure movie. And
With
it's
a
like,
cartoonish villain. Yeah.
yeah, played by Dennis Hopper.
Of course, it was played by Dennis Hopper. He was the villain in every '90s movie.
Yeah. Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah, like Speed and a few others here and there.
Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, right. Yeah, he was Koopa. Um, or not Bowser or whatever.
Right. Right.
King Koopa. Yeah, whatever. I can't remember. But yeah. So this movie is basically if you've heard other people talk about it. They say it's Mad Max on water, and that's basically what it is.
That is an accurate summary.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to nerd out for a minute here. So the basic premise of this movie is that the ice caps have melted, and so the entire world is flooded. Now, I've sent Daniel a picture of what it looks like in a world with basically no sea ice.
Yes, here it is.
So that is the map of North America about 70-ish million years ago. Not quite the end of the dinosaur era or the Mesozoic, the age of the dinosaurs, but pretty close to it. That is basically what a modern-ish world looks like when when there are no ice caps and it's just runaway global warming. You
Mm.
notice how there is still, like, while the Midwest of North America is underwater, going up to the North Pole, uh, there is still plenty of land.
Yeah.
This movie posits that the global warming happens, and um, it is so tall that in some scenes where they go diving, uh, you can see Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
there are all sorts of scientific questions one would have to ask, such
Yes.
as why is the air not so thin that they can't breathe consistently?
Yeah.
Um, where did all this water come from? Et cetera, et cetera.
Et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, and better questions like, where did all this stuff come from that you could build structures on the water? You know, you could build atolls and you can have boats and you know.
Right. It's implied that they've just been scavenging stuff for ages, but I feel like, especially with some of what the villains are doing, you'd feel like you'd have to have some new construction. Um,
Yeah.
so if you think about the movie too hard, it stops working. So let's stop talking about the nerdery I just couldn't resist bringing up. Like,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of other questions, like, well, the deep sea is the least productive parts of the ocean, and basically the entire ocean is deep sea in this world. So there should be like very few whales and fish and whatnot.
Yeah. And one that bothered me, where did they get the bullets for their guns?
Yeah.
Ugh.
There is a reason, I think, that is given. It is an insanely stupid reason. We'll get to that when we talk about the part of the movie that is the least grounded.
Yes.
Pardon my
Yeah.
pun.
Yeah.
But so I think that in the first half or so, I was actually like, I wasn't loving the movie necessarily, but I could take it seriously, and I thought that it had some very interesting world building and mechanics. Like, outside of it being complete nonsense
Yeah.
from a scientific perspective, it at least, like, okay, we're taking your crazy premise and we're running with it, and you're doing neat things, like you're having to worry about, where do we get fresh drinking water? Where do we get fresh
Food.
drinking water? Where do we get food?
Where do you get your yeah, where do you get your plants, you know?
Yep,
How do you grow vegetation? How do you farm? Yeah.
yep. What are you eating? And this all has answers that, given the impossible premise, like, are actually fairly believable.
Mm.
Um, but I know that we've talked a lot about the world of the movie, but we haven't really talked about the characters yet. Uh,
Yeah.
Kevin Costner is kind of playing himself.
Hmm.
It occurs to me that I don't think he's referred to on IMDb as the Mariner.
Yeah.
Is he ever called that in story?
Yeah, he's called it a few times, yeah.
Okay, I just missed that then.
Yeah. They yeah, so he's a what they call a drifter. So he's on his little what kind of boat was that? It's like
Trimaran, I guess.
trimaran. Yeah, that I've seen them. It's the kind of boats they use in races. Like different boat races, like down in the Bahamas and out in my part of the world. Um, And the movie opens with him, peeing into a jar and then putting it through a filter and then drinking it.
Yep. Which, as kind of gross as it is, it does very immediately set the stage for like how far you have to go to survive in this world.
Yeah.
They also have an opening scene where he is betrayed by another drifter, who he then proceeds to double cross and use as bait to when the bad guys, the smokers, come after them.
Yeah. They call the smokers because they still use like stuff that you need fuel for, like jet skis and
Yep.
different boats and that kind of thing.
And they also smoke cigarettes.
Yes.
You might ask, where did they get cigarettes? Well, we'll get there.
Yeah. And the other thing too is he had the drifter stole his the limes from his lime tree because um, for actually kind of neat little neat detail I thought was good was the with the limes because for those of you who don't know, the British in the 1800s, the reason they were called limeys because they used to suck limes when they were out on their naval ships, all the naval crews. And that was because limes have vitamin C, and vitamin C you need to stave off scurvy.
Yep. So like a lime tree would be exceptionally valuable for a mariner.
Yes, yeah. Um, but then he hears from the drifter that there's this atoll nearby, and so he decides to go over there to trade his wares. And his ace in the hole is a jar of dirt.
He's got a jar of dirt. He's got a jar of dirt. And yeah, what I was talking about earlier, where there's some neat world building. Like they have a cult, I guess is the best way to put it.
Mhm.
That's trying to run the city. Like they're keeping track of genetic diversity. When you die, you're lowered into this cesspool that they use to feed their small garden.
Mhm.
So like something like your bones will become the trees, or something. Your blood will become the water that feeds the fields. Something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like in Dune when they would when the Fremen would die and they'd break their bodies down into the water and then they drink their water, sort of like that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Um, and what they discover is that the mariner is in fact a mutant with gills behind his ears
And webbed feet.
and
Yeah.
webbed feet, webbed toes. Yep.
Yep.
The science nerd in me immediately goes, that gill does not have enough surface area to provide for the metabolic needs of a mammal. But like the only reason I even have these thoughts is, first off, nerd. Second off, it's because the world is taking itself seriously enough that it brings those thoughts to mind. Like if I compare it to something silly, like in Jack Frost, which was my solo review this week, I'm not even remotely interested in asking what Kubla Kraus was powering his Mechanomen with. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care how they have autonomous motion and can respond to verbal commands, because the tone it is set for itself is crazy imaginative kids movie.
Yeah.
In fact,
Whereas, yeah.
if we'd have the tale of two movies here, one of those two movies, I might have given it just as much slack and not even considered how it would work. But the movie that we start in and spend most of the first 2/3 of the movie in,
Yeah.
we do actually have, we do, it has a scientific plausibility that I do start thinking about these things.
Yeah. 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 It's just, yeah.
Not scientific plausibility, because within its own impossible premise, it fits together well enough in the early part.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and so when they find out he's a mutant fish guy, they lock him up in the cage, and then we also meet this mother and daughter, Helen, who's played by Jeanine Triplehorn, and then Enola, who's played by Tina Majorino, who I don't know if you recognize her because of her age in the movie, but that's the girl from Napoleon Dynamite,
Oh,
the one with the ponytail on the
okay.
side of the head. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Um, and little Enola, she has a tattoo on her back.
Also,
With,
she keeps drawing things that nobody has ever seen, like horses.
yeah, and yeah, she's got this tattoo on her back, which supposedly leads to dry land, and of course, everybody around thinks that dry land is a myth.
Right.
Um, and then right around this time, that's when the smokers attack, and that's where we first meet Dennis Hopper. I'm trying to remember what was the name of his character.
Deacon,
Deacon, yeah,
because he's also a cultist.
yes,
But
um,
we're like the people of the atoll were more like a nature Gaia cult. He's more like a Joel Osteen type.
yes, yeah. Yeah, he's promising riches and wonderful things on dry land if they follow. If he takes them to dry land, and yeah, he's
Yeah. They proceed to attack in the most wasteful way possible because, and this isn't my initial observation. This was like I watched a movie years ago, or a YouTube channel called I think it's called Too Dumb to Live, right, where the smokers were their first villain profile of villains too stupid to win. Uh, because in this world, like they're the most nihilistic, destructive cult possible. Because if anything sinks, unless you're Kevin Costner and have gill powers, you're never seeing it again.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they
and
just
they
go
yeah
destroying everything all the time.
yeah shooting everything up, and they have these massive machine guns, like these like almost like anti-aircraft machine guns, like
Yeah, like 4 barrel World War II style anti-air machine guns.
yeah, and they have a plane too.
Yeah,
Uh,
although not for long they don't.
no, that's true. Um, yeah, and so in the midst of the chaos, Costner, the Mariner, is able to get away, and then that's where in this whole sequence, that was why I was saying like, okay, this feels like a fun action adventure because there were a bunch of goofy little action adventure, action set pieces in there.
Yep.
Um,
And then as soon as the smokers are gone, it turns into a tense survivor drama with Mariner, Helen, and Enola.
yeah, yeah, and the Mariner treating them both like garbage the whole time.
Right. And there's a story there that I think could have been told a little bit better, where you have a hard-bitten guy who is used to being rejected by people. Like in the atoll, he is offered a young girl's first night in exchange for quite a bit of bounty to help their genetic diversity, and
Yeah,
he turns it down because he doesn't have any reason for anybody,
yeah,
or any need for anybody, I should say. So he's suddenly presented with what amounts to an ersatz family that he is roundly rejecting responsibility for.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, when he first meets them, he even threatens to throw the little girl off the boat because his boat's taking on water.
Yep.
Yeah, and then yeah, and that's basically the rest of the movie is just them wandering around, and then because they think that he knows the way to dry land, but he really doesn't.
Right. And it's like, oh, well, you must have given me the dry land. Where did you get the dirt? Well, and this is another bit where my scientific plausibility BS alarm is going off. He swims down to the bottom of the sea, aka the Rocky Mountains,
Yeah,
and he gets dirt in his jar and swims back up. Here's the thing: there is soil at the bottom of the ocean in spots, many spots, but it's not going to be good quality dirt. Like there's actually a scene of a guy tasting the dirt and testing it, deciding this is good quality stuff. It's not going to be like that after hundreds or thousands of years at the bottom of the ocean. It's going to be salt logged. It's not going to be very useful at all.
Yeah, yeah. Unless he had some kind of way to filter all that out, but I highly doubt it.
Right, salt in your soil is not good for most plants.
No, there's a reason why Hannibal did that, or was it Hannibal or?
It was the Romans who salted the earth at Carthage.
Right. Yeah. 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 There's a reason they did that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, but like these drama scenes were probably the highlight of the movie, in my opinion. Like because the goofy action stuff did not work for me, but him as a
Yeah.
grounded character slowly warming up to these people and having some false starts with learning to trust them, that was kind of heartwarming and cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that type of character arc.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a little slow for me, but yeah.
Yeah, like it wasn't the most entertaining thing ever, but I definitely got some enjoyment out of those scenes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like the smokers are from an entirely different movie, and whenever this entirely different movie invades, the Waterworld just suffers for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then because the smokers show up again, and then it turns into another action. It turns into an action movie, and then you,
Yeah, and not a plausible one. We're talking like a Chuck Norris action movie
yeah,
with how much the Mariner is just able to solo the entire uh, army of smokers.
yeah, and you even have a part where they kind of do a like a where the Enola kind of gives like a John Rambo or John Wick type speech about how great the Mariner is,
Yeah.
and like, oh geez,
The Mariner kills smokers and doesn't afraid of anything.
yeah,
Which that's the most words she says in the whole movie because she's largely a quiet kid, I think. Like,
really. Well, no, they were talking about how much she wouldn't shut up.
yeah. Okay, I'll let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
It's the longest coherent stream of thought she had.
Oh,
She
okay,
like
okay.
most of her sounds were like her singing or
Yeah.
being bratty or whatnot. Like
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah.
it's almost like it's almost like her fake mother Helen had written her this script in advance and just shoved it into her like pocket.
Oh, yeah, probably.
But,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah. So he proceeds to body the smokers, and you find out that where the smokers allegedly get their gear from, the
Yeah.
Exxon Valdez,
Oh.
and they aren't a Christian cult. They are a captain of the John Valdez cult,
Yeah.
which that probably seemed very topical in 1994, 95.
Not so much now. Yeah.
And even at the time, that was stupid
Yeah. Yeah.
because first off, it ran aground and started leaking oil. Guess what? When an oil ship has a wreck and has an oil spill, there isn't hundreds of years of workable gasoline sitting in the tanker.
Yeah. Yeah. And on top of that, I can't remember if it was the captain or whoever it was. They were drunk
Yeah,
when they crashed that thing.
and they were also nowhere near the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah. Yeah. It was what it was Alaska, wasn't it?
Alaska. Yep.
Yeah.
Also, that doesn't explain where they have boxes upon boxes of canned meat. They have enough gasoline that the deacon says, we got to cancel the tractor pulls for a bit to save fuel. You have tractor pulls on that ship?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You have enough cigarettes for a whole society of chain smokers for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
I guess the Juan Valdez was also armed to the teeth in case of Alaskan pirates.
Yeah. 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 Oh, this movie is so stupid,
Yeah,
and not even in a fun, stupid way. It's just
right.
stupid.
It goes full. It goes full something, as a Robert Downey Jr. in blackface once said.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah. After seeing this movie, I completely understand why it bombed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then the movie goes back. It tries to go back to the serious movie about. They get back to dry land and they find Enola's parents, because like the tattoo on her back was a map, and they just had to look at it right and translate the Chinese characters into latitude coordinates, latitude and longitude.
Yeah. Uh, Which again, like, how did she get off the island?
Yeah, there's not really an explanation of, because like if somebody took her off the island, presumably like I don't, maybe we missed a line about like how they found her with her mother or something. I could like said no wait, her mother was dead on the island. Like it would have made more sense if like her mother had been forced to leave the island for some reason,
Yeah.
and like had died en route and they found her on a drift or something. But it's just
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, yeah. No. Yeah.
so I think this is a case of a movie where if it needed to pick a tone and adjust what's in the movie accordingly, um, I would not be shocked if I found out there was massive studio interference in that ending, because that felt like an executive going, this thing's a sleeper. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what you need? Uh, watch Commando and make an ending like that.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. Considering everything else that happened when they were making this movie.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
or yeah, it just like, who told Dennis Hopper to be a cartoon in this? Like it's just
Yeah.
like I think that you know what, that's kind of our theme today. Is this was kind of a letdown of a week.
Yeah, it kind of was. Yeah.
I should say you liked Landman more than I did,
Yeah,
and I
that's true.
took a sort of weird. My writer imagination was stoked by the opportunities that Jack Frost left on the floor,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
this was just kind of a slog to get through. No pun intended.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Well,
The world rejected Waterworld, and for once, the world was right.
yes, it was. Yeah. Well,
If you want to watch this movie, it's actually shockingly similar to Fury Road,
it is. Yeah.
because
Um,
you got the paradise, you've got the girl trying to get back to paradise, just has a happier ending.
yes. Yeah. Um, Although I would rather watch Fury Road again than watch this again.
Yeah, definitely agreed.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we've said all we need to say for this week.
On the
Uh,
plus side, the movie did finally break even at some point, thanks to years of TV rentals, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, etc. So,
yeah.
don't cry for the studio too badly.
Yes. Yeah.